Well, let's follow up now on one of yesterday's top stories, the Eastern Cape Education Department earmarking almost 400 schools for closure. We know that number is set to fluctuate, as it were. Well, the Western Cape's decision to close the underperforming schools saw teachers' unions there taking to the streets, Sadtu organizing their members to protest in that part of the world. Will the union do the same thing in the Eastern Cape? Now, that's the question we're asking this morning, and we have Sadtu's Provincial Secretary Mncekeleli Ndongeni. He is on the line and he's going to chat to us briefly about that. A very good morning to you. Thanks again for your time. 17 schools were earmarked for closure in the Western Cape. Sadtu took to the streets and also went to court to challenge that decision. What's your position in the Eastern Cape? Will you be taking legal action?
Thank you. Good morning and good morning to your listeners. We have taken a position as the leadership of Sadtu in the province that says there cannot be at any stage that will allow a situation where the rights of learners are denied by those who are supposed to ensure that they carry out the obligations as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of the country, that of ensuring that all the learners get access to free, quality and equal education for all learners. And we have taken a view that says, first of all, our duty was to engage the leadership in the province of the ruling party, and we came to an agreement, both of us, that there cannot be a rush to close schools at a time when we know the huge backlogs that have happened in the province as a result of a number of years of regimes that made policies that clearly made the point that Africans, and in particular, and blacks in general, should be condemned to servitude.
And just to interrupt you there, my apologies to interrupt you. I understand you've had this dialogue. You came to an agreement that all South African children should have the right to education and that right should be upheld. But 58 schools, we believe, at least have already been closed. What I want to know from you this morning is, what are you going to do about it as Sadtu?
As we speak with you today, we have a scheduled bilateral session with the MEC of the province, of the education department, as well as his head of department. Key on the agenda is this issue of them department moving ahead with the closure of schools, despite the fact that the leadership of the ruling party in the province has pronounced for the department to put this matter on hold so that there can be proper engagement. Everybody has to understand exactly what will be the repercussions of the move that they are taking. That will be the first step that we are taking, to engage in bilaterals with the leadership, both of the movement, to remind them that it seems the deployees that they have deployed in government and also your key officials in the form of head of department are now defying the direction that the leadership has made.
But does it not seem hypocritical to you, sir, with all due respect? So in the Western Cape, when a similar situation arose, and there the number was even fewer than the schools that are proposed to be closed in the Eastern Cape, you took to the streets, your branch in the Western Cape took legal action against Education MEC Donald Grant to try and reverse the situation, and here you're sitting and discussing the matter. It's clear that they've defied what you say you agreed upon, that you should keep the schools open. There have already been schools closed, and you're still engaging in talks. You will not go to court, am I correct?
The starting point for us is to not rush to conclusion before we conclude engagement. First of all, we must engage. The actions that we'll have to take will be as a consequence of us having convinced that there's no breakthrough that we're making in engagement. So we're not going to start by actions. First of all, is that we must first engage. The last resort will be, if we are not listened to, then we'll be able to take an appropriate decision at the right time.
Okay, just as a closing questions, if the schools do remain open and they are reopened, what happens to the problems that persist, low attendance, etc.? How do you plan to remedy the situation if the schools do remain open, the ones that have been earmarked for closure are not in fact closed? How do you propose to remedy the situation, providing transport, making sure the learners are in class, etc.?
This is, of course, the matter that we think we must be able to. When we were told that the national government is intervening in the province, we knew that these are the challenges that are confronting the province. Of course, there is budget, there's money that the state must inject so that you are not able to perpetuate what has happened in the past, denying the right to access to education to learners. It is the duty of the state to make sure that they provide for the resources that are needed. And closing of schools cannot be the solution, because we are throwing those kids into the dustbin of history and we are shunning them away from society, which will result in more social problems for our own community. So we're saying it is the duty of the state to ensure that they provide the necessary resources to make sure that education is accessed by all our children as in line with the Constitution of the Republic.
Very quickly before we go, there were problems with filling vacancies in the Eastern Cape, that dispute playing out earlier this year. Do you think that was a sign of things to come? Do you think that government had intended as early as back then to close the schools, and that was the reason for the speed bumps, if I can call it that, to hiring new staff, permanent staff members in schools in the Eastern Cape?
There have been delays with the provision of educators, provision of infrastructure that is necessary, and the money is being returned to Treasury for infrastructure, department underspending even on the compensation of employees, on the payment that are supposed to go to teachers, delaying the payment of a number of educators in various fields, which we believe it's something that cannot be tolerated, because as we speak, a number of schools have closed because there have been failure on the part of the state to provide educators in those schools. And that's why today we're finding parents voting with their feet, taking their kids away from schools where there are no teachers. And it can't be blamed on Sadtu. When Sadtu takes action to raise these issues, a number of people in society jump up and blame for Sadtu for not caring about the learners and kids, whilst it is the department that is on the go slow in terms of doing the function that is supposed to do to ensure that teachers are provided at the right time, funds are provided to schools so that they can run at the right time, and all that is supposed to be provided, LTSM and other things.
We'll have to leave it there, and that's all this in the midst of many mud schools that still remain in the Eastern Cape. We'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for your time. Sadtu Provincial Secretary Mncekeleli Ndongeni.
News that moves. eNCA.com.